Hi, everyone. My name is Mo Moody. So some of you might know me, but I'm running for Onondaga County Legislator, District 15. District 15 is a very unique location geographically because it's in the like southern perimeter of like the south side of Syracuse, and then running like outer Comstock, going back up towards SU. So it's very like dynamically diverse community, like the left side versus the right side of the train track. I'm running as an independent on the independent line solely because like I'm just kind of fed up. Like I have a son, my children are in the school system here in Syracuse. My oldest is going to, thank God, the charter school, the Academy of Science, Syracuse Academy of Science. But my youngest is in Meacham Elementary. So what kind of got me in this direction and movement of getting involved and around is because I actually joined the PTO for Meacham. So I started seeing kind of like the inner side of the workings within the school system to the point where it was like, well, I got to get involved more. I can't just stand here and just kind of just hope that things are going to get better. And I'll have faith that like all the political leaders are really going to do what needs to get done. But then actually getting more involved and seeing that, what's going on, that there are a lot of barriers and obstacles. So where I present a very like unique strategic opportunity is that we know that we have the school system currently in the state that it's in. It's not ideal. What I mean by not ideal is that I've interviewed hundreds of people. Whenever I've spoke to them, say, hey, I'm about putting my children into the school system. What do you think about Syracuse? And they're like, don't ever send your kids to Syracuse school system if you love them, right? I'll let you can get into the Academy of Science, which thank God I won the lottery. I don't know how that happened. And then my youngest daughter also just won as well. But that shouldn't be the response, right? That really shouldn't be what people are saying because Syracuse has a lot to offer. That's why we're here. You talk to anyone else with the same breath, well, why are you in Syracuse? And they'll give you tons of reasons why you should be in Syracuse outside of the school system. Now, but as a county legislator, where I have this unique ability, we can actually start to create policies that we can then push and influence down and up. What I mean by down and up is that I can start leaning onto the city because the city, the way that it works, like from a legislative point of view, is that we're above the city. So if there's a policy in place, then the city has to somewhat abide to it or find a way to counter it. But there isn't anyone pushing on them. So I want to start pressuring them. And even if we can't get change on the city level, at least with the starting on the county level, we can get public awareness. We can get more exposure. For example, the PTO system is in a complete shambles. Yeah. They're all siloed. They're all individuals and they're not communicating. They're not working together and they're handcuffed because they don't have access to resources. Most of them don't have the ability to get tax, credits and get like nonprofit. So I can't raise in donations. So like, hey, give me money, but I can't write it off. So like they're struggling there, but they're also limited by what the city can give them. What I would like to kind of present and bring from like a county level is a way to organize the PTOs and have like a separate, like entity that can help organize these branches down with resources. So that, for example, if the head PTO in Meacham is now, her kids are graduating and she's leaving and no one's there to pick up the banner, right? Then there can be a system in place that can be like, well, the greater area, for example, like in my particular area in the valley is all that the feeding that goes in the Concord, that all goes into that high school, all the like the elementaries and that, but those can be a network together. So we can make policy together, you know what I mean? Say like, hey, we should have this in place so that PTOs to be strengthened, so that they can be strong, that they can have the funding that they need, so that they can go and get, non-credit, get able to fundraise money, so that we can then, as parents, kind of counter all this craziness that's going on around us. Because if we can make pressure from the county level and we can strengthen the PTOs organizations and we can then get our footing into all the schools, this is a way for us to actually implement change locally. And if we can implement change locally, then we can also be like a beacon and an example to all the surrounding counties. And this can just spiral out. But it has to start somewhere. And I'm willing and crazy enough to step up and say I'm going to do this because I've been watching for a long time. I am qualified for the role. I do have a master's. I went to Binghamton University. So I got a master's in social science with a concentration in public administration. That's like Binghamton University's fancy MSW and MPA, hybrid degree. I also double majored in undergrad. I kind of double a lot of things. I did psychology and sociology. So just from like an academic point of view, I have the background. I've also recently graduated from the Political Leadership Institute, which is like an incubator, like LGS subsidiary, which trains you how to be a politician and kind of like how I got to this point. I wouldn't say I'm a politician. I'm more of just a very concerned parent who just can't stand by and watch this. Even more so because it hits close to my chest because I was overseas for plus or minus 10 years. So I was overseas as a businessman. I was working in the tech industry over in the Middle East, but I was gone for like almost a decade. And when I came back to America, to the United States, it almost felt like I was in a sci-fi movie, like a Twilight Zone or Sliders or anything else in between, just an alternate reality. Um, and the things that are being taught to our children is a little bit alarming to me. But we're in a society where this is now becoming like a social, accepted norm. And I really want to go back to like our traditions, to like our back grassroots of morals. Like it's important. I want to make sure that my children are raised and being brought up in a great, society. We all want the same things, right? All politicians say the same thing, right? We want safer schools, right? Safer streets, right? We want low crime, right? And we want everyone to be happy. But how do we get there? So one of my biggest things is I don't want to just point out problems. I want to give solutions. So one of my solutions is by getting onto the county legislative level, we can start putting pressure up and down to influence people around us so that policies start going in the direction that we want it to go in. I also want to strengthen the PTOs because the PTOs or the PTAs, depending on where they're located, that's kind of like our door into the schools for us to get an understanding of what's happening. That also is a good, easy way to kind of spread our numbers and actually get insight on what's going on into our overall setting. My other strategy also is very simple. I want to be your voice. This is why I'm coming to groups like this consistently, because it's really not about what I think. It's about what all of us, the constituents, the taxpayers are thinking. I want to see return in my investment, right? I'm working hard in the tech industry. I work in sales, right? And I'm paying my taxes. And I want my taxes to have a return. And what my return is going to be that when I send my kids to school, they're educated, right? When I'm walking down the street, I'm not getting robbed of all the nice things that I've worked hard for, right? I also want to have the ability to know that I can let my kids go out and play. I can't even understand that concept. Like when I was younger, right? Mom's like, all right, go outside. I was in Brooklyn, by the way. You know what I mean? Like I was in Brooklyn and it was just like, go run, play, be back by 8, right? Maybe 7, depending on how old it was, right? The sliding scale. I would never think in a million years right now to open my door and be like, all right, girls, get out there. See you back at 7. But it should be. It really should be, right? And we have to make change. We have to stand up. And by doing that, it's just one, not by complaining about the problems. It's about actually getting elected officials that are going to do something about it and to be accessible and to be heard. That's the biggest challenge I've seen all the time. It's like we put people into office and then all of a sudden, I don't know what happens. They just run off, disappear. They don't do what they said they were supposed to do. So part of that is going to be to keep myself honest with everyone, that I want to give out like my personal cell phone. Everyone can call me. So if you ever see me in the future going, hey, Mo, what are you doing? Okay, we need you to take care of the schools, right? Please get back to it, right? So that's my overall goal, is to be an actual voice, the true representative. Of course, I can't think of an emergent scenario where I have to make a split decision like, all right, Mo, that's it. It's on you. And if I can, I will be able to, because I'm a former New York City police officer. So I'm proven under pressure and under stress to be able to be a leader and be able to come up with those decisions. But I also want to have community buy-in and community understanding. I just don't want to stand up here and blatantly just make a policy go, this is going to be the solution for the school system. I will go out and say, this is what I think is going to be the solution. Let's come together and let's polish it. Let's do some revisions. And once we're ready to go forward, let's go forward together and not us pay for it. That's the other level, is that why do we have to struggle financially? We should be taking our money, investing back into our resources so that we can invest in what counts, like salaries for school teachers, so we can attract the best teachers in the area, or we can invest back into infrastructure so that there's sidewalks. So when I'm pushing my stroller, I don't have to play like Frogger and try and jump across the street and hope I make it. Or I'm like, hey, my daughter's friends, like, hey, where do you live? Nope, there's no sidewalks. You can't go and play date. I'm sorry. Well, do you do virtual? You know what I mean? Like, it should be accessible, and we should have that ability. Now, I've said a lot, and that's kind of like a little bit of tip of the iceberg of like who I am, and I have a lot to offer, to this, not just to the county, to the city, just to the general idea overall. But I also want to kind of learn a little bit more about what's really relevant, important to everyone here. I've heard a couple things already. I've been taking notes, but if you want to ask me any questions, I'm all ears. But that's me. My name's Mo.